Welcome to Mag8 Africa, the channel where we break down the most important innovation stories shaping Africa's biggest economies. This week, we're looking at fintech leadership, clean energy finance, startup funding momentum, and strategic partnership driving innovation across sub-Saharan Africa's largest market. So let's get straight into it. Our first story is from Nigeria. Nigeria strengthens its position as Africa's fintech powerhouse. Nigeria is once again at the center of Africa's digital innovation story. This week, reporting around the Central Bank of Nigeria's fintech and digital finance framework highlights how Nigeria is positioning itself not just as Africa's largest fintech market, but as a global reference point for real-time payments, financial inclusion, and regulatory sandboxes. With platforms scaling payments, lending, and digital banking to tens of millions of users, Nigeria's fintech ecosystem continues to attract global capital and talent. Why it matters? Fintech remains Africa's most mature innovation sector, and Nigeria is setting the pace for regulation-led scaling. Our second story is from South Africa. South Africa unlocks innovation via renewable energy finance. In South Africa, innovation is happening not just in software, but in how infrastructure gets financed. This week, British international investment Alex Forbes announced a R1 billion investment to support secondary market transactions in renewable energy. The deal improves liquidity for clean energy assets and helps accelerate South Africa's energy transaction, a key enabler for industrial and digital and economic innovation. So why does this matter? Renewable power is foundational for innovation, from data centers to manufacturing and AI. Our third story is looking at startup funding momentum across the big economies in Africa. New data this week confirms that Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa continue to dominate startup funding across the continent. Despite a tougher global venture capital environment, Africa's largest economies are still attracting capital, especially in fintech, climate tech, logistics, and health tech. Corporate venture capital participation is also rising, signaling deeper ecosystem maturity. Why does this matter? Capital concentration shows where innovation is scaling and where global investors still see long-term upsides. Our fourth story is from South Africa, and it looks at South Africa and China deepening their trade ties with innovation. South Africa signed a new economic partnership framework with China, aimed at expanding trade and investment flows. Beyond export, this deal has innovation implications, particularly in advanced manufacturing, digital services, and industrial technology transfer. This is a strategic trade partnership increasingly shaping where innovation ecosystems grow and scale. Our final story for this week looks at Kenya and South Africa leading Africa's innovation ecosystem. Ecosystem rankings released this week reaffirm Kenya and South Africa as Africa's strongest startup and innovation hubs, with Nigeria closely behind. The ranking assesses talent, infrastructure, capital access, and policy, key ingredients for sustainable innovation. Ghana, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Uganda continue to strengthen their ecosystems through digital public infrastructures and startup support programs. Why does this matter? Strong ecosystems don't just create startups, they create long-term economic resilience. That's this week's top stories. What it shows is Africa's largest economies are innovating through fintech leadership, clean energy finance, startup capital, and strategic partnership. So if you want weekly insights into how innovation is shaping Africa's largest market, subscribe to this channel, Mag8 Africa. See you next week.